Hi everyone, my name is Jean-Christophe, and in this beginner Python tutorial, we will learn about Python dictionaries. In Python, dictionaries are one of the four data types that are used to store collections of data. That is, multiple items being stored in a single variable. There are four main data types that store collections, and they are dictionaries, lists, sets, and tuples, which we'll cover in all other lessons. So first, let's look at an example dictionary. In order to create a dictionary, we can either store it in a variable, so create a variable, and then use the curly bracket to initiate the dictionary. So if we look at the type of D here, we can see that it's a dictionary. We can also add key value pairs. So this is how dictionaries are created. You add a key. So I can give a name. You use the colon and you put the value. So you have a dictionary now. If you want to add multiple items to the dictionary, you need to separate with a colon, with a comma, and then you can add another key value pair to your dictionary and say Chewina. And then if I return the dictionary here, I can see it was created. One thing to bear in mind with dictionaries is it doesn't allow for duplicate value. So here, if I try to create a dictionary where my name is JC, and then I try to create another name, JC, we can see that uh, only one of the duplicate value was added to the dictionary. As we quickly mentioned earlier, dictionaries have keys and value. So if you create a new dictionary and you can say key, colon, value, comma, key, column, value, comma, key, column, value, comma. Or you don't end with a comma when you create your dictionary. And when you want to access a specific items within your dictionary, you can select it using the key. So here I can see I can use this to access the value of the key. Dictionaries can also have multiple data types, so you don't have always to use the same thing. So you can see D equals, and then you can say, I want to create a string, so you would just use what we've seen. So you can say hello, you can create a Boolean, so column false, that's a Boolean, so true or false. You can create a list within your dictionary, so 1, 2, 3. You could create an integer such as 10. So it can have multiple data type. So if we look at the data type of D, it's a dictionary. And if we look at the data type of bool here, then I can access the value and I can see it's a Boolean. So if you don't know what data types are, I have a tutorial on the subject, but essentially dictionaries allow you to add multiple data types. When you want to create a dictionary, there are many ways you can create an empty dictionary. You can use the dict constructor method, so that would create a dictionary. So if I say d equal dict, so if I print d, or alternatively, you could say dict equal, use a curly bracket and just run this, and you'll see that you've created two empty dictionaries. They're using different techniques. So I just mentioned the constructor. So using the dict constructor as one interesting value is it allows you to create dictionaries quicker. So you can say A equal 1 or B equals 2, and then you would return your dictionary here easily that way. If you want to create a dictionary where all the values have the same values, so all the keys have the same values. So I could have the keys equal A, B, C. And for instance, I would like all the values to be equals to 0. So the way I can use this, I could use the from key method from the dict. So there are dictionary methods. This is one of those. So from keys, and then you use the keys and the value that you've defined. And if you return this, you'll see that we've returned a dictionary where each of the keys are the keys you define and the value is always 0. So now let's look at how we can search through a dictionary. So I've created the dictionary here where it's a bit more complex. There are nested dictionaries. It's about David Attenborough, the broadcaster of Planet Earth here. We can see that I have the nested dictionaries. I have lists within it. And we want to search for keys or values within that more complex dictionaries. One of the way we can do this is to use the get method. So I can use my dictionary and use the get method, and I can search for the name of the person. And now I can see that I have David. This is similar to doing what we discussed earlier by saying here name. Returns the same thing, but both have their own value here. One thing is if we decide to say my dict and I would like to get the spouse, with the get method, I cannot just go here and say search for the spouse. It will return nothing because it's not part of the keys here. I could only use the first level. So if I look at the keys, I can say my dict keys, and I can see I can only use one of these keys as within the get method. So if I would like to get the spouse, for instance, I would use my dict and I search for the family, and then I would use get spouse. So now I can get it. So this is how you search through a nested dictionary. You need to access the keys, and get the values, and from within it, then you can use the get method. And similar to what we said, you can also just search through a nested dictionary by saying here spouse, for instance. If in this case you wanted to have the occupations, you'd see that since this is a list, here you just select 0 instead of the value because you'd want to select the first index out of the list. But essentially that's using a chaining of square brackets. You can dig through the dictionary. You can go faster to search your dictionaries by trying to get all the values within your dictionary. So you use the values method on your dictionary. So as you can see now, we have all the values. So we've seen how to access the keys. We've seen how to access the values. You could, if you want, convert your dictionaries into a list of tuples. So if you use myDict items, then you will return not just the keys, not just the values, you'd return both keys and values. But instead of being a dictionary, such as what we've seen earlier, it would become a list of tuples where the key is the first item and the value is the second item. Now that we've seen how to search through the dictionary, if you want to modify a value, so for instance, if I look at my dict and the birth date of David Attenborough, I can see that it was said it's the 9th, and searching on Google, I can know that it's the 8th. So for instance, I can just reassign the value by using the equal sign on the key. And if I look at my dict and the birth, then I'll see that it was reassigned. You can just add new values. So if I look at my dictionary and I look at the keys, I can see that I have these 5 keys. I can also add a new item. So I could just say, okay, I want to know what is David Attenborough known for. So I can say, okay, this, and I could use the equal sign to assign a new value, uh, wildlife documentaries. So by using the equal sign, I can reassign a new value, create a new key, and assign its value to the dictionary. And if I look at my dictionary now, I can see that the new key and value were added to the dictionary. If I want to perform multiple change all at once, I could use the update method. So this is interesting because the update method can allow you to both add and modify value all at once. So for instance, I could say my dict, and I use the update dictionary method, and in there I add a dictionary. And from within that dictionary, I could say, okay, I want to say that he's known for not not wildlife documentary, but specifically Planet Earth. So I would say, okay, that guy is known for Planet Earth, but he also, I want to also add a new value, said he works for the BBC, which he's done for like 70 years or so. So if I look at my dictionary now, I can see that both the value was changed and a new value was added. So using the update method, you can start modifying your dictionary faster. To remove item, it's quite simply, so it's simple. All you have to do is you use the mydict, and if you've seen the tutorial on set, you can use the pop method and just define what value you want to remove. And you don't have to reassign here. The pop method just remove it in place. So as you can see, the birth date is not here anymore. If instead of just knowing which value you want to remove only the last item, for instance, you could just use a pop item method, and that would remove only the last item, which was works for BBC, is not here anymore. One of the very useful thing we can do with dictionaries is to loop through each of the values. So here I have a dictionary, and I've created a new dictionary with my name, last name, website, etc. And one thing we want to do is if we want to start looping through each of the keys of values, this is something that we can easily do with Python. So if you don't know how to make loops in Python, I have a tutorial on Python loops. Make sure to watch it. But we'll cover how to loop through the dictionaries now. So if you want to loop and print the keys, all you do is for x in my dict, then I can print x. And here I can see that I will have print each of the value. A similar technique to be had is to use the keys method, and you would print each of the value this way. So in order to make sense of what this is, if we look at my dict and keys here, we can see that it's an iterable. So it's a dict key data types. And within the dict key, we can see that this is a kind of a list, so you can iterate through each of the keys in the dictionary. So what's my favorite option between this one and that one, which seem to return exactly the same thing, is that why I show you the method is because it allows us to later look at values and items. So that we'll see in a moment. If you want to print values instead, so remember I told you in order to show a value, you can say, okay, my dict name, you select it this way. So we will do something similar. So for x in my dict, then x, if we print x, we'll see that again we are show where x is the key, right? So in order to come back to the similar thing we said here, in order to select the value of each key, we would need to do x mydict and add x as the between the square brackets. So here I'm showing this way, and I could print both and say, okay, now I'm printing the value and I'm the key, and I'm printing the value of the key. and that's what's happening here. Another way to print value is again to do exactly the same as what we define here, and this is why the method may be useful. So in order to select, in order to print the value, instead of using this this method, this technique, using the square brackets, we could just say print x directly by using the values method. We can also loop through both keys and values. So we could say for, you remember the items, so my dict items. So if we can see here, again, it's a tuple. So if I just say for element in my dict item, then I could say print element. So if I print this, I can see that I'm printing tuples. So if I wanna select the first value, so the key, I would say, okay, select the first item. So I would only add the keys. And if I want to select the values, I would say element one, and then I'd print the keys and values. So you can loop both element at once, both items, the key and value at once. So this is super useful. We've almost covered all the Python dictionary methods. So if I can start my new dictionaries again, we'll see some of the methods that I haven't discussed yet. Uh, I don't use them as often, but still interesting to know. So if you could also set a default key. So in this case, you can see that my name is JC on this one, but if I would say, okay, if the key doesn't exist, give it a value. So you could say my dictionary set default method. So if you use the set default method, then you could say the key is name and the value is Jean-Christophe. Jean-Christophe, my name. So what would happen here is if I look at my dictionary, what will happen here is nothing because the value already exists in my dictionary. However, if I were to decide to add a default value on an item that doesn't exist, then I could say set default, and I want to say, okay, my employer is TripAdvisor, so my employer is TripAdvisor. Then if I can look at my dictionary, what I'll see is here I don't have an employer, so using the set default method would say, okay, the employer was added. So in the case the key already exists, nothing would change, but in the case where it doesn't exist, the set default method would add the key. And one last thing, one last method is, what if you have a dictionary and you want to completely remove all the items of it? You could say my dict clear. You use a clear method and you can see we end up with an empty dictionary. So thank you very much. This was the end of the tutorial on Python dictionaries. Help me by subscribing to this channel and stay tuned for my upcoming Python for SEO course. It's coming up. You can subscribe in the description below, and you can also follow me on other social media or visit my website. Thank you very much. See you next time.